Hey, what's up, everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. So I had to adjust my audio settings. I think I got that right. Just for anybody that's ever trying to get that right with your live streaming, if you're into that, up your bit rate. That's what it ended up being, I believe. So you guys can tell me again with an audio check, but I upped it to 128, which I found the settings requirement on a YouTube forum somewhere. So just be aware of that. So I figured since I was kind of messing with you guys and uploading some little clips there, and a few people jumped in, that I would at least do a quick demo. I started doing these for my warm ups this morning, and I'll just kind of run through a couple of these with you. These can be fun and a great way to kind of experiment. And what I'll generally do here is just grab a real basic brush. So I created this quick shape brush. It's just a pretty simple shape, and then I've got it on a tilt so that if I get a line going up and down, it's thin. If I go across, it's thick. So it's real basic. But what I'll do here is start to just rough in some silhouettes. So for instance, this is supposed to be like a mech warrior, tech soldier, futuristic thing. And then this right here is, yeah, thanks, Keeman. Yeah, third time's a charm. So yeah, I think I got it figured out now, finally. Which really sucks because my previous live streams kind of sound horrible, I think. But whatever, it's hopefully the content is still, worthwhile to everybody. So essentially, this one here is supposed to be a little guy on a turret, and you see it's just roughed in with some basic shapes. But the beauty of these, it's like thumbnailing for your comics and things like that, is that you can rough it in really quickly, just add a layer, play around with it, and just see what you get. So I try to go in with really no idea, I guess, because at this kind of thing, I'm just trying to see what the silhouette brings to me. So I might have some idea of perspective and a general idea of what I want to see, like something modern and that kind of thing. But other than that, I try to let the ideas just kind of come out as I go. So in this one, I'm kind of perceiving that the angle is this way, and that's something tech-like, and it's going to have these appendages and different weaponry and things coming off it. But I'll just kind of draw on these shapes and play around with it. And the other thing I'll do is go over to the translucent and go back and forth. So you see I kind of did that with the details of the one over here. But this can be a really fun way to kind of create, and you just stamp out a bunch of these, and then you can save them and hodgepodge them together and do whatever, but um, like maybe there's some kind of gun, and guns, I'll kind of do these different segments overlapping, just to get an idea for some kind of weapon. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you do this quickly enough where it doesn't matter if you're not getting a great concept right away. This I'm almost picturing like maybe it's some kind of antenna right here. Maybe it's got a little piece that comes up like that, whatever. These are starting to look like cat ears to me, so I'll get those out of there. So I try to eliminate things that appear to be a bit of a distraction to the design as well. Oh, what's up, Christo? Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, you stop back later. Cool. Appreciate that. Um, yeah, so this is a really early live stream. I mean, I usually do like later in the day, Eastern Standard Time. But like I said, I was doing these audio checks, so I figured I should at least give you guys something. Hopefully these come out all right. We'll see what we get here. And then the other thing is, if a shape's not working, just go right through it. Add something else and try to take it in a different direction. So I'm trying to figure out how I want this thing to move. Is it a flotation type unit? I think I want it to have some kind of legs. So I'm going to do like some kind of like almost insect-like mechanical legs. So I'll do a few of these coming down and getting really thin. And this is where I like brushes like this, where I can do these relatively thick to thin shapes. I'm moving the bracket keys around on the brush itself, but not much, because I can, I know that I can go up and down and get a thin shape like this. So it reminds me of more like a calligraphy type pen, and it works out well for just conceptualizing like this. His legs don't look great, but see if I can fix that. Maybe it's got a wider set, or I think they need to come out further before angling down. And if I want to show the segments in the way that they transist, I can put a little bit thicker piece there. So it's kind of neat how much information you can really get in with just a silhouette. I think that's the kind of the purpose of doing this type of work. And then what I'll do, if I get a silhouette I really like and I want to take it a step further, I'll knock this back to like a grayscale or a light tone, just like this, and I'll draw through it or paint through it. Just tilt that a bit like this. And like I said, I can go to the translucent here. I can start refining it a bit, illustrate some of the segments and things like that. So this is where it becomes more of a drawing process. I can figure out how these legs attach up here, and you can you can really get some ideas in there rather quickly. Start building out this way and think about what shapes would come out here. Yeah, so it can be a lot of fun. So let me take this one and bring that over to the side here. And another thing you could do is you can combine these. So you could take something like that and quickly get some crazy monstrosity. You know, if you move it back here, you can still make sure the silhouette of the guy is in place. So there's lots of neat ways to conceptualize when doing this. Alright, let's try another one, a new layer. And let's just block in some real big shapes. This one I'll do more landscape, left to right. This works really well for like, you know, alien ships and anything science fiction. I mean, really you can do it with anything. I've used this to even do poses for characters, but I think it works really well for technical kind of illustrations. So I'll give this something almost like a speed glider kind of look. Maybe a seat back here, something like this. Some lower thrusters here, possibly. And it looks like a snowmobile, which is kind of fitting because there's about 1.5 feet of snow outside. But instead of this being a front flare, this will be a gun of some kind. You know, we don't want to just make a snowmobile, we want to make a snowmobile with weapons all over it. So another gun there. And then what we can do is, by scale, you know, especially since I mentioned snowmobile, it looks like it would be rather small. But then by scale, we could actually just easily change that by putting in a smaller kind of helm, and maybe have a character leaning back like this, controlling it. If I can get a little thing that looks like a character in here. You know, say he's holding on to a big control device or something like that. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that generally you can make something appear a lot larger or smaller just by the scale of a you know, a human form in there. And then the other way is to do a lot of little pieces. So if something's got more detail, talk about this one doing like cities or buildings. If something's got a lot of tiny little pieces to it, then it's generally going to look a lot more massive. So that's a quick way as well to kind of show the scale of the illustration. A good example of that is if you notice the ships in Star Wars. They have tiny, tiny little details all over the place for those. I'm talking the models now. It's all 3D, obviously, but that's how they were able to convey that scale. Those models were obviously, well, some were really good size, but they were still much smaller in reality, obviously. And they do that by putting in all those tiny little pieces that makes you see it as this larger, massive thing. So you can do that anywhere. You just keep going through this, and obviously, it automatically starts to change the look of it by adjusting that silhouette. And come back with the translucent. We can start drawing inside of here, work up some details that are coming out perspectively. And this is probably the trickiest part, I think, is once you get a quick design in there, how to start building out the depth this way. So at first I'll just do a lot of little flares or flanges and little breaks in the design, but I have to be aware of how to make this look dimensional as it comes out to the viewer. But again, I use stuff like this more as a way to just kind of warm up and loosen up for the day and get some creative ideas going. And then from here, generally I sketch a lot more than this. This is more of a device that I use to break it up because I don't do as much concept art. This is more of a concept art type technique, I would think, but it still allows me to just get the creative gears going. Okay, so let's try one more, and I'll add a new layer so I can edit it. And let's do, I don't know, let's do something right at camera, just to see if that's, or you know what, actually what I'll do is I'll do a character. I just want to show you that you can get this to work for a character as well. And I'll still do something modern, so I'll just block in the overall shape real quick. So head, upper torso. I like doing these characters where they're holding this massive gun, so I'll do something like that. So the gun will be like even larger, like he'd almost have to be some kind of cybernetic thing to hold this massive weapon. I always think that's kind of a neat look for science fiction. So he'll have this gun that's just bigger than life. So again, just some kind of crazy shapes in there just to kind of get the idea going. And let's go and get the silhouette further in place. This is actually where another brush would probably excel better than this one. Like I said, this brush works really well for techie kind of stuff, but you can still make any brush work. And I'll probably make this available for free download on my my one free Gumroad site, the Ram Studio Comics version. I've been meaning to put a few free Clip Studio brushes up there for everybody. So maybe some little bits of armor, so we could do like some little shoulder pad deals right there. Maybe he's got some kind of little headpiece off to one side or something. And one arm probably comes in. We'll do some armor off the legs. Actually, I'm going to switch. I think it'll just be quicker to grab something like the G pen for this particular illustration. So I want to stress that the purpose of this one is just speed, like not entirely accuracy, because you're just really trying to get ideas down. So I think speed's more important than accuracy on this. Well, you'd be amazed that if you do this enough, you'll get some really accurate representations. Just got to keep moving things around. GS Ward, what pen are you using? I'm back to the G pen. I was using a specially made pen for these ones up here that I just call a quick shape brush. But this one is the G pen, or if you've got this brush set, the detailing brush is a good one. But the G pen right from Manga Studios is awesome. And all I'm trying to do here is just get some basic forms going real quick. Then I can work up from here. But yeah, I'm like trying to get everything positioned right. Now what I probably should have did here, let me distort this just a little bit, is I probably should have did the framework of the character, and it would have came out a little bit nicer. Like, you know, the old school, like head, shoulders, you know, and just do the skeletal structure first. But I just really want to try to do it just from the silhouette. Plus, I want to show that if you just keep editing the work, you'll eventually get something nice, anyways. Like for instance, this is predominantly how people paint. A lot of people will sketch. Like I'm more of a sketch type guy when it comes to even my paintings, but a lot of people will go right to the shape painting like this. And although I've had luck doing it on a few pieces, it's not necessarily my strong suit. But I still try to practice it as often as possible because I'm always an advocate for working on the things that you're not best at. I think that you learn more in that process. At least I feel that I do. Some people are the opposite, and they prefer to only focus on their strengths. Okay, so let's change this headpiece just a little bit. So again, I'm trying to get as much detail in with the edges as I can. Clean up some things. It's also good to flip this back and forth like anything else. See if you see any flaws that way. Like for instance, this gun I don't think would be entirely straight up like this. And I want it to be even larger. Like I said, I want to do something where the gun just looks almost way too big to carry. But if this was some kind of futuristic soldier with enhancements, then maybe it wouldn't be an issue. Okay, so let's do this. Add a little bit more detail to the leg armor. Let's see, GS Ward says, I can't really get the G pen to work very well for me, but I think I need to calibrate the sensitivity of my tablet and pen. Yeah, it's very well possible, JS. All those things are tricky. It's just like how I just finally got the audio right on this. I keep having to go back and adjust settings. It's also one of the reasons why when you do get something to work, you really want to be careful of changing anything around or back up anything that you got. Back up the brush, back up the settings. If it's a setting that you can only visually take note of, then take a photo of it with something and back that up. Just because it's real easy to get in there one day and I'm going to mess around with this and make it a little bit better, and all of a sudden you make things worse. It's very much an issue with digital products, so you got to be aware of all that because it sucks having to sift through a bunch of information online just to find the right setting when some of these devices or programs have lots and lots of settings, lots of drivers, and then you start to combine that and it becomes a mess. When you're running 2 or 3 different things, and yeah, it can become hectic. So be careful of that. But yeah, it's probably a setting. One of the things that was a big one for me was getting in control of the brush settings inside of Clip Studio. So for instance, once you go into, where's it at here? Once you go into here, just remember that each one of these has this pressure curve. I don't mess with tilt velocity. I'll try them out, but then just remember this: every time you try something, try it and disable it. Try it, disable it, and go back and forth, because if you change multiple things, you'll have no clue as to what you did, obviously. So I'll adjust one specific thing, and then I'll come back and I'll demo it, and I just repeat that process until I get something good. So just be aware, be careful of that. All right, so again, try to get some little details in here. And for me, I generally draw my characters. I don't really do them this way. It's not a bad thing. It's just, the way I work or whatever. But what I could do is draw in as much detail with the dark to light like this, and then go back and tone this down and really draw through it, and hopefully get something, better and more unique or whatever, more detailed. But this still, again, allows me to kind of get the ideas going, and then I might just go off past this and just draw it out the way that I'm starting to see it as I do this. But it's a great way to kind of figure things out. Yeah, I wouldn't worry. Oh, hi, how you doing, Fracking Cat? Always love that name. GS Ward, I wouldn't worry about that being your issue, saying because you have an Intuos 3. Uh, I don't think that has anything to do with it. If you update your driver and stuff like that. The Intuos 3s are great tablets. I did a lot of, that was one of my first tablets. Um, I don't think that's much of a hindrance. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it is. I think that it'll be other things like the way it's reacting with the program, the driver, uh, the the driver settings themselves. So I don't think that it would actually be that tablet. That was a pretty great tablet. I would still have mine, but I actually gave it to another artist because I was trying to get them involved in digital art. And actually, I don't even think they did anything with it. I should have got it back, but I was trying to, I was so excited about digital art, and then I was upgrading mine from the Intuos 3 to the 4 or something. I can't even remember what I jumped up to from there. I think it was just from the 3 to the 4. So I felt like, oh, let me share this and get another artist on board, because I think digital art's so cool. They'll think it is, and some people take to it, other people don't. So I think they didn't really take to it. Yeah, so there's a quick, so I just want to show you that you could still make the silhouette thing work for even a character. Then I would blue line them. This is obviously still pretty rough. And then what I would do is just kind of keep drawing over top until I get something a little bit more, the style that I like to see. So I'll go to my pencil tool here. And then now what I'll do is try not to let this hinder me from drawing the detail that I like to draw. So I'll just use this as a guide, but I'll do a lot of draw throughs. So I'll change things pretty substantially at this stage and start doing what I feel comfortable with my drawing, but it still gives me that base structure to work over, so it's still a progressive method. So I'll start figuring out how I want the shoulder piece to look. And, I can really zoom in here too. I don't have to stay back any further like I was doing there. I like to stay back from a distance as I'm doing the silhouette because I want to see it all at once. But then as I'm starting to detail, I can get in a lot tighter and try to figure things out. Try to figure out how I want this armor to look, and widen out the shoulders a bit further. So I'll bring this over to here more. Bring the chest out. Let's see. Question: why do comics always accentuate the rib cage so much underneath the pecs? I would say that the reason, at least the reason I do that or whatever, is you're really trying to bow out the chest. So you're trying to really bring it out like this. And the more that the rib cage is kind of inflated outwards, the more the pecs sit up. So, you don't see it as much at this part of the illustration. But as it goes on, I can generally shade and make the pecs look like they have more of a superhero-esque type bow to them. But it's just preference. I mean, you don't have to. You could still do. I could take all this back, and we could just take it straight down. And a lot of times at a resting pose, the stomach muscles just come up higher. I mean, obviously the rib cage is still there. It's just not as inflated outwards, and you'd get just the stomach muscles here. And obviously this guy's wearing a suit, so you're not going to see any of the stomach muscles really. And I tend to probably over illustrate that because I do so much superhero stuff. But then if I looked at reference of a soldier, all this is going to be covered with padding and, well, in this case, this one's more of a modern future soldier, so it'd be a lot of techie kind of looking stuff. But what I'll usually do is, even with the tech looking stuff, I'll have it take the shape of the anatomy, just because I think it makes sense. Like if you did have a character that was covered with all this techie kind of gadgetry, to me it would still have to have breaks in the same place that your anatomy would, or you're not going to be able to bend. If there was a human counterpart inside of this thing, he's not going to be able to move around. It would essentially would break him. If it didn't have breaks in the same way that his body needed to move. So I'll tend to always kind of illustrate the shape of the anatomy with that. But again, it's just preference. It's just style choices, conceptualization. There's lots of reasons why people do what they do individually. Oh, hello, Aurora. Good to see you. Yep, see you later, Freckin' Cat. Thanks for stopping by. And JS saying, yeah, I bought it a long time ago. Just had to get used to it. Couldn't back to it, and really enjoying it now. Yeah, it's they're great tablets. You'll get it. It's just time spent on it. I've definitely seen people do amazing work on those tablets. I need to get back on using my Intuos 4 because I'll take breaks from it, and then I get kind of caught up using my my Cintiq setup. But then it's good to kind of bounce back and forth and try the various tablets. All right, we'll give them like a little centerpiece thing here, kind of like a little Iron Man kind of effect. And I want to change the helmet pretty dramatically, so let's see what I can come up with here. I do like the kind of mask thing, kind of looking all Judge Dredd or something. And then I like the side piece coming off here. Don't mind that. Change the shape up here a bit. Kind of looking a little insect-like. And then I like the antenna looking thing. And this, again, kind of almost looks a little bit insect. So like that. Bring the visor through here. And I don't think I'm going to put a face on him. I'll just have this covered. Make him look more villainous, a little less humanized. As soon as you don't have a face, you become pretty mean. So something like that, a little glare through here. I'll put some segments through this. What's up, Nikos? Good to have you. Iron Man, yeah. It's not supposed to be Iron Man, but yeah, it does have a very Iron Man feel to it. And essentially, I'm just trying to show how to take that initial silhouette. So if you came in late, it started off as more just creating some quick silhouettes, and then I immediately went to more of a character type thing, just because that's traditionally what I focus on as characters. And then I just keep editing the work. So widen out the pose a little bit right here. And actually, I should have did that in both. One thing I like about Clip Studio too, if you're trying to work on multiple layers, you can actually hold Shift, grab both layers, and you can edit them together, which I think is helpful because if you're trying to do something like this where you're still referencing the previous layer, it's kind of neat because you can modify all of it at once. Really helps with digital painting as well. Something like that. So I can just kind of keep and then go back to just drawing on the top layer. And let me try something different with the middle here. I always do this same thing through the midsection. It is looking a little too plain. So let me try something else. I want the effect again that you do see some of the shape of the body, but let's just try something else altogether. There really wouldn't be any need to show stomach muscles in this, but we do want to show, like I said, some kind of ability to contort through the center. Am I saying that right? Twist or contort through the middle. And again, we'll give him this little Iron Man looking thing. But you know what? Don't ever feel bad if your characters look a little bit like another character. Uh, they have to resemble that character in so many different ways in name and design. You can't, you can make something that looks pretty darn close and not have any worry about it. For instance, if you ever pay attention to cheesy B-rated movies or whatever, you'll see there's a lot of stuff that's actually very comparable to the big superhero stuff. It's just you never hear about it because they never seem to do as well. Originality goes a long ways, um, but they probably make a pretty healthy living off their cheesy movies and and copying ideas. 'Cause you'll see them every now and then. You'll see a movie. Netflix is actually great for that. I think Netflix opened up my eyes to that because you'll see all these movies like, what is that? Is that like a spin-off of Transformers? And it's some low budget, cheap version or whatever. I can't even remember the name of that particular one that I'm thinking of, but I didn't even watch it. It was like one of those things like kind of giggle and move on. And try to bring this chest out a little bit further. I don't know what I want to see here. The ideas aren't flowing on this part, but I want to do something different here, but I can't think of anything different. So just making these little changes in shape. Now let's work on the gun anyways. See if I can come up with anything over here. Well, hopefully the audio is sounding better. That was really the main purpose of why I jumped in today. I was trying to get that bit rate changed for the recording process because I noticed the past couple live streams I did had horrible audio. So, which was weird because I asked for an audio check. Yeah, JS Ward got it. Transmorphers. That was it too. I never even watched it, but I seen the title and the cover, and I'm like, what's going on here? That looks like a lawsuit waiting to happen, but apparently they can get away with stuff like that. I don't know how that works behind the scenes, but it's pretty wild. But yeah, so I'm glad I finally figured that out. Hopefully I did. I'll know as soon as I upload this one, but I checked the last one, the test one I did before this, and it sounded pretty good. So again, I'll just reiterate that for anybody that's trying to live stream and figure that out. You got to be at 128 bit rate for your audio for it to sound right by the time it live streams from OBS to YouTube. And I didn't know that. It was all the way down to 30 So you can imagine the difference in quality. It had a real kind of, it almost sounded like it was the audio dubbing over itself, but it wasn't the infinite loop type deal. It was just bad audio. But which is weird because I don't know how it switched on me, but this is the problem with jumping from program to program and doing all this stuff. I basically just went from Twitch back to YouTube, and yeah, all of a sudden I'm getting crap audio, and so hopefully that's figured out now. I don't like this arm piece here either. And then, another thing is too, when doing this, I think it helps to get rid of parts of the previous design if that previous design is getting in your way visually. So I could take this stuff back if I'm not particularly liking the look of this, and then make sure to change all that together, because if not, you'll kind of just repeat the same problem. So let's bring this over again. And we could even do something asymmetrical with the characters. So we can do a downward shoulder pad here. And let's try to bring the arm further back to here, because it looked like it was sticking out too far. And let's see, still not liking that. Yeah, drawing this from my head. Somebody's asking if I'm drawing this from my head or not. Um, yeah, I'm definitely drawing this from my head because I'm struggling. um, it's not coming out the way I hope, but I'll get there. But yeah, so this is out of my head and just playing around with it. I just basically used the silhouette to kind of give me a starting point, kind of a something to work over top of, and just trying to figure out the look of it now. I think I'm just going to do it where this doesn't even look like a forearm. It just looks like a piece of the gun attached to the arm. I always liked that. Like there was an old show. I can't even remember that one. Maybe one of you guys will figure it out. But there was one as a kid I remember where this guy was going. I think he was a hitchhiker, and he's walking down the road, and he stumbles upon an alien ship, puts his arm in it for some weird reason, and it's a funny thing about alien concepts. Everybody stumbles upon it, and they immediately want to touch the alien artifacts from another world. And it ends up locking onto his arm, and he starts traveling down the road with a gun on his arm. So this guy kind of almost resembles that concept. But, and it was a really cheesy 80s flick. I can't even remember the name of that one. So we'll see if anybody knows that one. Yeah, I like so Aurora says me too. I love drawing from the imagination, kind of obsessed with it. Yeah, it's definitely to me a lot more interesting. It's there's times when you don't want to do it, I think, but there's definitely times when it's more fun, it's more exciting, and you just want to see what you can come up with. And it's just expressive. You're just trying to say, okay, what ideas can I make work? Some of them are great ideas, but then they don't work out when you try to illustrate them or whatever. And then there's times when you can turn a decent idea into a great idea. So you really have to just play with all that and see what you can come up with. Um, that's why I think it's so important to be inspired. Like a lot of times when I'm doing this, I'm just trying to warm up or educate and share information. So I'm not always as inspired to create some great masterpiece. But then if I watch like a really cool movie, like, I remember I watched Avatar, I was real inspired. And then if I watched like, I would say the new Transformers, but they seem to be getting pretty cheesy. I don't get as inspired as I did with, say, the first one. But I'll watch something like that, become ultra inspired, and then I want to go right back and create something. Um, for instance, the last one I remember being really inspired by, I never even got to see the movie, but I started checking out movie art from World of Warcraft, and I just some of those shots were so cool that I was like really inspired to create something. And I did that Orgrim piece, and I just remember as I was painting it that I was really inspired to create that piece. There was no lack of energy for that, and that's where stuff like will show in your work when you harness that inspiration or excitement for something that you're seeing visually. And um, it's just like why I always have energy to draw comics, 'cause I'm just so inspired by comics. Okay, so let's see. His legs look a bit stubby, and then there's a weird shape here I gotta fix, and yeah, it's a bit off. But let me see if I take the blue line off now, what the line art looks like, and if I can make any quick modifications to bring that out. It's weird. I always have proportion issues. Like do Command Shift T, stretch these legs down just a little bit. Bit larger. I think the arm needs to come down because the arm will actually be to about midway of the upper thigh. And a little bit wider. So I do this a lot where I just kind of, nip and tuck and move things around just to get a feel for it. Let's see. What about at the beginning when you started drawing? All imagination, or was it mix? Oh, so you're saying at the beginning of somebody commented on that movie. Is that what it is? Was it Laser Blast? MST3K did that one. It was great. I'll have to check that out. Maybe it was Laser Blast. That sounds very 80s, for a title. Laser Blast. Where our budget was next to nothing. I don't know. You never know, but some of those had you could just tell were really low budget, like the Wraith, or I'm trying to remember what was the one with Charlie Sheen, and he was in that car, come back from death or whatever. It was the Wraith, right? I saw a clip from that not so long ago. I just again kind of had to chuckle and move on. Um, yeah, appreciate that. So getting some love out there. Love your work, dude. Love the love from India. Nice. Yeah, I gotta love the internet where you get just people from everywhere. That's fantastic. Um, are you gonna give him a weapon on his left arm? Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it. He almost looks like he's holding a gun, doesn't he? So I could do something like that. So where he's got like a, another weapon right here. Block that in relatively easy. And that's really why I think it's neat to do this where you don't have a predisposed idea in place, because you're open to change, you're open to adding things and taking them away, and I think that's really important. I kind of do want to give him a mouth though. Let's give him a little mouth there. Um, but yeah, it's just fun to do. And I like the little weaponized arm now. I think I'm gonna just go with that all the way up the arm, like get rid of this bicep looking thing, and just make this all mechanical. And what you could do too is you could do more segments, so it looks like he's got more, like he could flip this gun behind him rather quickly and shoot something. It could flip and oppose any possible way. Let's see here. And yeah, did I use? I'm sorry. Let me get back to that one question. Did I use any? I got sidetracked by Laser Blast there. In the beginning, did you start drawing all from imagination, or was it a mix? In the beginning, I did everything from comics. That's what got me excited. I started drawing. I'd always drawn. Like for instance, I have a picture where I was little and I was drawing Dukes of Hazzard, for instance. So that's way back. And I was excited because I got a little Dukes of Hazzard, the General Lee toy, and I was propping it up and I was drawing it and things like that. I remember dinosaurs was my first thing, so that would have been obviously from reference, even though you can definitely be imaginative with dinosaurs, but I was always looking at pictures of dinosaurs and drawing those. Um, and so on and so forth. And then comics, I got excited and wanted to be an artist for a living when I was about 15. Started looking at comics, and then I was drawing everything I could get my hands on from all those cool '90s artists like um, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Silvestri, Waltz Portacio, and all those guys. I would just look at their stuff and I would draw it in my own style. Some of it I would just try to copy the picture. I remember I tried doing this Hulk face that Dale Keown, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Dale Keown drew. And it was that one where it was the Hulk had been changed to the smart green Hulk. I don't know if you guys know that, but and he did like this big face shot that was amazing on the front cover, and I was like inspired to draw it, and I could not do it. I mean, I did it and it looked okay, but obviously not to the level he did, but anywhere close. Uh, but I was, one of those things where you're inspired to do it, and you keep trying to draw it and realizing where your flaws are in your art and trying to get better at it. So that's what got me started, and now I use reference to learn. So I study reference all the time. Like for instance, for this guy, I would look at probably concept cars because he's more techie than person. So I would look at the pose of a character. I would even maybe even pose like this and take a picture with my camera and tripod, and I would study where the flaws are in the pose because there's obviously some, and I would try to fix that. Then I would use concept cars and futuristic tech weaponry, whatever, and I would study that and I would make this better. So definitely, I think it's okay to do that. It's okay to like learn from your surroundings and make better art and figure out where you can become better at your own stuff. You can also just sit here and keep just doodling until you get better and better stuff, but just don't beat yourself up over it. It's okay to study and grow from that. Okay, the chase was that. Which one was that? That was the. Are you guys giving them a name? The chase. Which one was that? And then I can't say your name, bud, but you're saying, Rob, do you have any advice on how to start and get paid to do your art? Nice. So you might want to get into rapping. That was a little bit of a rhyme there. Um, yeah. So basically, how to start and get paid with your art. That's a tricky one. I mean, the main thing I would say there is to produce as much stuff as possible. Get better at producing what you do. Figure out where your niche is. That's a big part with marketing anything. So, for instance, one of the things that I do right now is I market digital courses. I teach people how to create art. I create video course content for Udemy, for my Gumroad, and that's one of the ways that I make a living to keep doing what I do here with you guys. Like, for instance, YouTube, I don't make very much. I make a small amount, but it seems to be a nice lead generator to my other stuff, and I just really enjoy it. So I do YouTube mainly for the enjoyment, but it does help generate some sales and things like that. So you could start a YouTube channel. You want to definitely build an audience with whatever you're doing. So you want to say, okay, what's my thing? What's my niche? What am I after? Do you want to be a comic artist? Do you want to be a pinup artist? Do you want to be a conceptual artist? Do you want to be, so you got to nail that down first. And then once you've got that kind of in place, you can elaborate from there. You can figure out, because this is the other thing about making money with your art. I always try to tell people about it. You don't just pick it. It does pick you, unfortunately, in some ways. So, what I mean by that is you pick it in the sense that you go, well, I'm really good at this and I want to be this. So that's what I'm going to do. And then it picks you by saying, well, unfortunately, there's not a market for that. Or there's people that are better and quicker at it. And until you can become competitive, you might have to do something else. So that's where it picks you. And that's unfortunate. That's like life in general. You can say, I want to be an NFL football player, but you can't do the 440 and whatever the 440 is. I don't know, but obviously I'm not a football player. But so you it ends up picking you or not picking you, and you can't do that. So you got to be aware of that, and you got to say, realistically, what can I do? You could sell commissions of your work. A good thing about that is it will tell you what other people are willing to pay for your work. So that can be a hard truth as well. So you can sit there and say, I made this great piece. It took me all day, and I think it's worth $100, right? And I'd be happy if I got $100 for it, right? But then you go to sell it, and you get no offers, and that sucks. You're like, wow, man, I thought that was a deal at 100 or whatever. So commissions can be an eye opener. They can sometimes be depressing, if you think it's worth a lot more than other people do. So these are all things that you have to do to realize if you can make a living at art. Uh, the other thing is you can play it from the other angle. You can say, well, I'm going to really reduce my cost of living, and I'm going to live off my art no matter what. But you need to make something. So I would say just get started. Digital art is really huge right now. It's growing substantially. Teaching people how to do it is growing substantially. Just share your work a lot, and you'll kind of get a nice gauge there as well. So I always tell people I use social media to kind of pinpoint what's working and what's not. Because some of my stuff I think it's cool, and other people are like, whatever. I get 10 likes on it, or whatever that is. And then you start to realize, like, whoa, what I thought was really killer was just average to somebody else. So you have to start, again, figuring all that out. Social media can be a great gauge for that, I think. So hopefully that answers some of your questions there as far as how to get started making money with your art. Yeah, Chase movie was the one with Charlie Sheen. Really? I thought it was like Stealth or The Wraith or something. What was The Wraith then? Yeah, I have to jump off here and Google that. I'm trying to remember which one The Wraith was. Alright, so if you see I went back to kind of doing the shading, and this is where I'll go back and forth and kind of repaint things. And then at this stage I can even take this and do a darker tone and then bring back the highlights. I wouldn't actually do it that dark, but let me drop this way back. So I could do something like this. I kind of just keep doing stuff like this to build up the depth of it. And come back with some highlights. And there's really no right or wrong way to do this, but you can really go back and forth and keep figuring out the design further and further. Yeah, no problem, bud. Glad I could answer that for you. Hopefully it helps. You really just have to implement what you're doing and go from there. But I always tell people there's never really been a better time to be a digital artist, or, well, I shouldn't say a digital artist, just an artist in general, because there's so many opportunities out there. I think the hardest part is just not getting overwhelmed by all the opportunities and picking one and being diligent. So easy to get distracted with all this stuff that's going on. You like his left forearm? Cool. Thank you. Yeah, and it's still, a rough concept, but I just keep going with it until I get it refined. And let me bump this all the way up so I get in here and throw in some more highlights and just figure out what objects are a little more specular. He's pretty much like a techie looking dude, so there'll probably be a lot of specularity on him. But I don't have enough variation in the dark to light either yet. So I work on some of that. And a little bit more dark. I can sample from the existing color palette. Paint some of that in. So I want a little bit more dark sections in the gun here. So it's looking too flat. And probably this gun as well. Do you have a hard time finishing drawings? Um, I do in the sense that I'm just busy with a lot of projects, but I don't in the sense that if I'm really that's why I was talking about inspiration earlier because if I really get inspired on a piece, I can't stop until I finish it. But my work doesn't allow me to do that. So like for instance, I just got a um, call on another storyboard job, and I get those randomly here and there, and I don't get them as much as I need to or like to sometimes. But when I get them, I got to jump on them. So I talk about that on the channel as well. Here, storyboarding's really good money, and it's just sporadic, and that's one of the reasons I do the other things so that I can kind of fill in the gaps. But so I'll be working on a project, and I could be truly inspired by it and just excited and all that stuff, you know. But then if I get a call on a job, it's like, you know, I got to go to work, so uh, I won't necessarily be able to finish the piece. That actually has happened with some of my YouTube videos before. Been doing a series. I gotta get back on that superhero series, and I think I might just do that as a live stream now, just to get it done. Um, but yeah, so I'll get on that, and all of a sudden I'll get a call on a job, and I got to stop everything I'm doing and work on that job. So, but no, as far as like when I really get excited to do a piece, no, I don't have a hard time finishing it. I might have a hard time finding inspiration and staying motivated that way, but that's all I do. If I really start to find myself not sticking with it, I just have to figure out a way to re-inspire myself with that particular piece. You know, so looking at similar reference to it, there's, you know, a great way I think is to look at other artists doing a similar thing. You know, so if you're working on a cool fantasy digital painting and you're getting kind of winded on it, and you're getting I don't know what direction to take here, and I'm just gonna quit doing it. Look at some amazing fantasy art paintings in that similar uh, style or whatever it is, and then, you know, pull from their inspiration, pull from their amazing rendition, and just remember that, you know, you're seeing the end results of theirs, so don't beat yourself up over it if yours is still in the beginning stage. But yeah, I think it's really important to pull from that inspiration from other artists. Let's see, Rob, do you know how to convert image resolution? Because I paint my drawings on high res in Photoshop, but when I upload them on Facebook, for example, the resolution is terrible and the image looks blurry. Well, that's probably because Facebook is going to dumb down the quality of the image when you upload it. Um, and it's also the format in which you export and upload. So if you export your JPEG, you've got generally when you export a JPEG, you're going to have options to bump up or knock down the quality of that JPEG, you know, the compression of it. So you probably need to pay attention to that. And like I said, Facebook is one that I know they always dumb down the quality a little bit. So you need to check into that as well. Have you ever done storyboards for any film? No, I typically do commercials and a little bit of like conceptual stuff for like designs and what do you call it? Trade show exhibits, that kind of thing. But it's mainly all been commercials for me, and I've done a few storyboard comps for products and things that were promoted otherwise, but primarily all commercials. Like I did the Hunt's tomato sauce commercials from a year or so back, and it was kind of neat because I did all these, and then all of a sudden I saw my stuff on TV, and I'm like, whoa, I did that. I mean, obviously with actors and actors they change it all, but you could still see they used a lot of my concepts in it, so it was really kind of a neat thing to see your work on TV like that, re-envisioned and that kind of thing. Where can I sell mango stuff? Not sure on that. Probably maybe somebody on the live stream can answer that for you. Are the commercials animated? No. What ends up happening? I do the artwork in more of a realistic fashion, more realistic than what you're seeing here, and then they take those and let's see if I want to keep working on this guy. They take those and they animate the artwork for what's called an animatic, and then they replace all that with actors, actresses, full set designs and all that. So they do animate it for a part that no one ever sees called the animatic, but then it goes to realism or whatever, real people. Yeah, and then I'd probably refine this another time. It's still not quite as good as I was hoping for. So what I would do is just take this down again, probably draw over top of it one more time, if not two more times, but at least one more. Unless I was going to take this to a painting, because it's pretty much ready to start painting. But then I would take this, drop the opacity, maybe convert it to blue line. Just depends. I think blue line works good. And then I can get over here. I could probably just start inking this. If I was going to do a comic style, just grab the G pen or something. And then set the black, not white. And I can get in here and start adding more of a comic stylized line work to it. So there's just really no right or wrong way to do this stuff. You just go with what works. And there's lots of different techniques to implement. And even at this stage, I would keep adding a bit more style and detail. So any opportunity to do that, I just kind of take advantage of it. All right, so we're coming up on the 1 hour mark. I'm probably going to bring it to a close, mainly because I didn't even mean to to make a live stream today. I was just going to do a quick one and get it back onto my work that I've got in front of me. So I gotta get to that. But it's always nice to warm up and share some stuff with you guys. So hopefully you find this informative in some way. And make sure you guys let me know in the comments of each video what you want to see in the future, like what you think would make for a good live stream. Obviously, we got to get back on the Supergirl artwork, but then also, if you got a cool idea for a live stream, comment in the section below, and then I'll make sure to get that on the schedule. So I'm gonna try to bring these a couple times a week, as much as possible. Like I said, until I get busy on a commercial job, and then you guys won't hear from me. But that's just kind of the nature of my scheduling and business in general. So, but if we can get enough traction on these channels or the channel and live stream and all that, then I'll be able to spend more time on this and not have to take in so much commercial work. So it's really my goal. But it is what it is. You just do as much as you can and see what happens. So any last questions before I close this out? And silence. Did everybody leave? Is anybody out there? Hello? Oh, there we go. Excuse my ignorance, but why does it need to be blue line? I do blue line because I can see through the work. So whenever I'm making changes or edits to the work, I like to blue line it so that I'm not overly focused on the previous step. So in this stage, I wanted to ink it and kind of clean it up a bit. So I don't want the previous step to be a hindrance visually, so I blue line it. And it's just an old technique I was used to when I did my comics traditionally. I always either drew with a blue line pencil or I converted my pencils to blue line with a copying machine. So it just feels natural. But again, there's no right or wrong way. You can do whatever way works well for you. Nico says, what are the best networks to show people my art? I use DeviantArt, Facebook, Twitter, just all of them. Whatever you can get your hands on. And you'll see which ones people... I like Instagram because you post it and immediately get responses or likes really quickly, which is nice. So if you're into that immediate kind of satisfaction, Instagram would probably be a good one. Nova, yeah, I'm getting ready to close it out. Sorry about that. I it's already been an hour, so I don't like to go too much over that, so I can make sure I don't neglect anything else. How can someone learn to draw faster? That just comes with practice. Can your next video be about making? I'm not understanding that, Scott. Can your next video be about making like just plain normal scene? That's what the fan art fun that we're doing is about. I'm carrying that Supergirl piece to a finished artwork, so you can jump in on that one and see that. It'll be segmented up. We're on take 2 of that, and it'll probably go to who knows until it's finished. So you can watch those if you're wanting to see that one in real time. I'm here, just didn't speak much. Nice. And 2B says, Rob, can you pass me your talent? Sure. That's what I'm doing right here. These little videos are to basically give you my talent through a osmosis of visual stimuli or something. So yeah. So hopefully you guys find these helpful, and more on the way real soon. It was fun to share this with you. So let me pan back and show you what we did here. So we did some silhouettes of some techie stuff. We got a little futuristic cybernetic soldier with a big weapon, and yeah, all that fun stuff. So there'll be more on the way real soon. So please share the videos, like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you soon. So keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.